Right, Oreo with Hunter's Fury. This is actually a short one-ish. Now, realistically, there's nothing really to go on here, simply just because the Hunter's Fury's chest and backpack offer very little in variation. Obviously, you can use them if you want. The chest offers longer duration of the stacks. The backpack increases the radius of the CC from Hunter's Fury. So, in reality, every build is going to be a variation of, well, it's going to be this, but with whatever else you decide to put in. I would recommend at least one Grupo piece, simply because that's going to allow you to get your crit damage up. You can go for Sokolov, however this is mostly made redundant, as with all things like AR damage, SMG damage, rifle damage, blah, simply just because expertise now exists. To get it to level 10, there's your 10% AR damage. It's kind of annoying. So, I recommend at least a Grupo piece. In the footage, you can see in the background now, I am running a Grupo chest with Devil's Due backpack. Now the Devil's Due backpack I have is crit chance, crit damage. I know I'm a lucky bugger. However, this actually puts me over cap. I'm technically at 63% crit chance, which isn't necessarily too much of a bad thing. It's only 3% crit chance. I could easily just put like weapon handling or something on, maybe some headshot for some more damage, which would put me down to 57. However, the main reason I've kept it with this is just in case I do need to swap to my other weapon. Admittedly, at the moment, my other weapon is just another Vector. I believe it's Dark Winter, but if your other weapon is something like an AR, having that increase in crit chance, simply just because Ouroboros has insane crit chance. At base, it's just like 31% crit chance from the attribute, and then the attachment, you get 31% crit chance. If you're over SHD 1000, you're at 41% crit chance, and all you've put on so far is a weapon. So building for this thing can be just a tiny bit problematic. It's going to take a little bit of jigging around, and you might need to farm separate pieces. I personally can't be bothered farming up a separate Devil's Due with headshot or handling on it, because that's what I would personally recommend. Handling kind of would be nice. It would mostly just be there to help bolster the reload, but it's already got like a 25% increase or decrease in reload speed, so it's not really like a requirement. And 8% handling isn't going to do much in the way of helping out an SMG's accuracy. It's basically going to do literally nothing. However, hopefully you can see that in this scenario, clutch does work really well with this fire rate. Like, I would actually argue clutch can make a little bit, just a little bit of a comeback just because of this weapon, because of the fire rate. I would be interested to know how this works with PvP, so Elite Panda, Prodigy Reflex, or any other PvP players out there, do let me know if you decide to test this Aureus with Ouroboros with clutch in the PvP environment, just to see how much you can potentially just sustain yourself off of this, because it's kind of crazy. And yes, for the people that did ask, you can run this on strikers for even more Unga Bunga RPM, which potentially could also mean a greater influx of healing through perfect clutch. However, the main reason I didn't go over that is simply because all of Striker's utility is just in its Unga Bunga. You drop a little bit of Unga Bunga and get so much more utility from something like Hunter's Fury, which is why I would actually personally recommend that if you are going to be using Ouroboros in missions, open world, I would argue Hunter's Fury is going to be better than Strikers, depending on your personal player skill level. To give you an example, I'm mostly going to be using Hunter's Fury. Mostly. So, like I said, we're going to start off with builds, and again, like I said, the first one that we're going to be showing is the one I have in the footage, which is 4-piece Hunter's Fury, Grupo chest, Devil's Due backpack. You don't have to go with Devil's Due, you could put a Sokolov here and just get a normal clutch, but I find perfect clutch to be the only one really worthwhile. This does put us over crit chance. This is just what I'm running. However, if you want, or you have another Devil's Due backpack that has ideally headshot, I feel like headshot would be the better option. This absolutely can fit in. The amount of survivability you get from this is actually kind of unreal. Pairing the fire rate with perfect clutch, the overall DPS of Ouroboros, and then the 20% armor on kill. It is genuinely very, very nice. Although, that being said, if we're gonna go full on Gabunga, then there are better options. Admittedly, not that many. There's like 2, which is kind of sad. I have tested Lengmo, Backpack, Perfect Unstoppable. It's mostly not worth it for the initial round, so that is why we're going to go with normal Unstoppable with Sokolov. What I mean by this is, essentially, before we get Unstoppable Force, with this, we at least get the 10% SMG damage, which then would mean with the, I think it's like Backbone or something, Perfect Unstoppable, we don't even get that. We get 20% explosive resistance. So from the first stack, Perfect Unstoppable Force is basically playing catch up. This allows us to get more damage on our initial burst to get that initial kill, which allows us to then sort of steamroll forward, whereas Perfect Unstoppable Force doesn't actually allow us to get that. This is actually very, very similar to a lot of striker builds. It averages about 17 million DPS, so it's not too far below strikers. However, if we do want a little bit more usability and survivability without dropping too much damage, weirdly, Memento here actually comes in at like a second best. So you could argue Memento finally has its next best in slot. We're on like 3 builds total now. So yeah, this is it. Again, there's not much difference here. All that's really happening is we're just swapping out the backpack for Memento and we're putting another critical hit chance mod in just to try and make up that difference. This again is still very powerful. You get a tier 2 shield at base, which is going to be very, very handy. I also do recommend running Firewall just because you can get a little bit more amp damage out of that shield rather than running Gunner. There's plenty of ammo boxes around. So this would basically be, Memento would basically be second best in this scenario. For the third one, this is a bit weird, and this is just something I was just playing around with, and it ended up just being pretty damn good. We have Courier here with Perfect Creeping Death. We still have our Grupo chest with Obliterate. Courier allows us to get a little bit more headshot, which is actually really nice. And before you go, oh, but SMGs with headshot, Ouroboros fires so quick that the bloom just doesn't actually, it happens, but nowhere near as much as other SMGs. And the end result is you can actually get pretty decent, consistent headshots. And the plus side to this is, depending on the cooldown, you can literally CC an entire room by killing one enemy, because not only is Hunter's Fury going to CC those initial adds, that is then going to spread to all the other enemies within like a 16-meter radius or whatever Perfect Creeping Death is. It's kind of funny. Pretty sure it's 10 meters now that I actually stop and think about it. So yeah, you can CC an entire room. And then finally, and I can't believe I'm putting this on here, however, it does work. We have Ninja Bite Backpack. Going to use a Sokolov mask or a Sokolov piece to get SMG damage and crit damage, and then we're going to use Walker and Harris to get another 5% damage, and all of the damage here is coming from Ouroboros carrying Ninja Bike. Do not get it twisted, Ninja Bike is not good, but in this scenario, it actually ends up being like third, weirdly. Simply just because, ideally, if you're going to be using Ninja Bite Backpack, you need to use Walker and Harris, because the only way you can make up a lot of that damage is going to be the 5% damage to armor, which is what a lot of gear set builds are missing. So we've got the 10% detox on the weapon, the 5% damage to armor from Walker and Harris, 2-piece, actually does make a huge difference, simply because of the amount of RPM that Ouroboros has. And of course, it wouldn't be a me video if there wasn't some spreadsheet somewhere. So this is the builds. Top is Devil's Due, Unstoppable Force, Memento, Creeping, and at the bottom, Ninja Bite Backpack. I've double checked all the numbers. I'm pretty sure it's all there. There might be a discrepancy in the Ninja Bite Backpack simply because I've given up fucking mathing that thing out. And due to the size of the spreadsheet, have to get rid of them. But as you can see here, in first place, we have Unstoppable Force. Then we have Memento. Then we have Ninja Bike, surprise contender, then Ouroboros with Devil's Due, and then finally rounding it off, we have Creeping Death. These are the best, or at least most interesting builds I have found with Ouroboros and Hunter's Fury so far. I'm assuming there's going to be more out there. However, due to Hunter's Fury mostly requiring the 4 slots outside of backpack and chest, there's not really a lot of variation you can do. But hopefully this is going to help you out, or at least give you some interesting ideas. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.